Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Is there any request for agenda reorganization? Moving forward with the report out of closed session.
Right. Good evening, members of the school board and audience here today. My name is Evelyn Madrigal, and I'm here today representing Yuba City High School, and I'm here to discuss, the updates and events happening within our school community. First and foremost, this year marks our centennial celebration, and we have a lot of exciting events planned to celebrate this milestone. Our celebration will take place this Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m., so tomorrow. There will be games and free food, and we hope to have more events throughout the year to celebrate, and we also hope to involve the community in these festivities. Additionally, I would like to invite everyone to join us for our food fair this Friday from 12:53 to 1:33. This event will be held on B Street and will offer our students an opportunity to learn more about different cultures. We are excited to collaborate with local businesses and organizations to make this event a huge success. We will also have a variety of foods that include empanadas, jarritos, cookies, donuts, baja blast, tacos, samosas, chicken nuggets, basically anything you can think of. And all the clubs are participating to raise money for their clubs and for all. We have an upcoming prom meeting this Wednesday during break. Our prom committee has been working tirelessly to ensure that this year's event is safe and enjoyable for everyone and for our seniors who are leaving us, unfortunately. We encourage all students to attend and provide their input on decorations and other aspects of the event. And in conclusion, I am proud to report these fantastic events that are happening at Yuba City High School. We appreciate your continued support, and we look forward to seeing the positive impact they will have on the students and our community. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful evening.
I'll just do it, and then at the end. No. Okay.
Hi, guys. Glad to be back. I'm glad that you're welcoming me back. I'm sure you all know what happened. But my name is Eddie Jensen. I am the River Valley School Board representative, and I'm just here to give you a little bit of updates about what River Valley is doing in terms of ASB and sporting events. So unfortunately, this meeting is going to be kind of light, besides a little surprise at the end. So I want to get stuff kicking off. Unfortunately, due to the weather, Falcochella has been pushed back to May 5th, which is after prom. And so everybody's trying to scramble around and get our food trucks and our bands reorganized. And so our committees are doing a great job at putting that back together. Officer elections, the videos end this Thursday, so they're supposed to be submitted, and then they're going to be posted up on our Instagram. If you want to find all of our upcoming ASB members and their interviews, you can go find it at RVHS ASB. We just had our staff versus student basketball game on Friday. It was at the end of the day, something to really kick off the weekend. Unfortunately, the students did lose by like 20 points. It was a tough loss. I mean, we were coming back in the end once all the teachers got tired, but it wasn't enough to save us just there. But anything, it was a great thing to rally the school together, and we really had a great time. Lastly, I just have our sports. On the 30th, we do have a home baseball game versus Wood Creek. JV and varsity are both playing at 4. Tennis on the 30th, a home game versus Roseville. And then for track and field, we are having our only home meet this Thursday versus Roseville and Antelope. And for my last piece of news for you guys, I have prepared a little something that I didn't get to talk about last time. This was our prom expo. Show off all of our prom dresses and prom venues that are going to be featured in our prom. Like I said, we had a lot of people and a lot of vendors show up. Beauty by Natalie, Always Elegant Bridal, K Studios, Heavenly Collective, First Class Tan, Elegant Designs Bridal, Skies Nails, Perfected Beauty by Monica, Abel Photography, the country florist. And then as you can see the pictures with the hair, we did have the hair and the makeup professionally done for the ladies, and those were done by K Studios and Heavenly Collective. And then all the suits that you see the gentlemen wearing in the pictures, those were all supplied by A&E Bridal. And we did feature, everybody got to do their little catwalk. Everybody kind of got a little creative, and so we really had a good time with this one. But that's really all I have. And enjoy. Thank you.
The real marks is playing. I'm concerned.
I apologize, a little longer than I remember. I couldn't get my own button. She wants to let me stand next time.
She knew you were going to do that, right?
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
At first, I was thinking that was very James Bond looking of you. The second part was like very Grease. So
Pick a topic.
yeah, there you go. I pick one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll go ahead and move on to our student recognition.
Yes. So I'd like to invite FFA advisor Eileen Desmond to the podium along with Catherine Gallagher to discuss what is accomplished and where she's going to be next. People actually see her speak for us.
Yeah, so thank you for having us. Like Doreen was saying, this is Kate Gallagher. She's one of our FFA members at Yuba City, and she has been working on her speech for the FFA contest for about 4+ months now, definitely a little bit longer than that, on coming up with a topic. So she's done all the research and writing and lots of revisions on her speech on an agriculturally related topic. She went to the section contest and advanced to the regional contest this month. She won second place at the contest. And then coming up in a few weeks here, she will be moving on to the state finals contest. So we're super excited for her to represent us there. And Kate is going to share her speech with you on Executive Order N7920. Yes.
All FFA members believe in the future of agriculture. One day it will be our everyday life. So we take note of new technologies, strategies, and laws affecting agriculture. It is critical that we pay attention to what is going on in our state legislature and executive orders issued by California Governor Gavin Newsom. One that is especially worrisome is Executive Order N7920. This order states it shall be further a goal of the state to transition to 100% zero emission off-road vehicles and equipment by 2035, where feasible. This means it will not only be mandatory for passenger vehicles to be electric, but off-road equipment such as tractors and harvesters as well. This executive order will hurt California agriculturalists by bombarding them with unnecessary expenses, disregarding their rights as business owners, and affronting the strongest allies in the fight against climate change. The cost of switching to electric vehicles leaves farmers wondering if they will be able to break even. According to Kelley Blue Book, the October 2022 average transaction price for a new electric vehicle was nearly $16,000 higher than a new vehicle of any powertrain. Many farmers and ranchers use trucks daily to check fields and orchards, as well as other commodities. Clearly, this will require new, more costly truck purchases from farmers, which has the potential to destroy their budgets. This concern reaches beyond passenger vehicles and has impacts on harvesting equipment and tractors. Combine harvesters range in cost from $100,000 to $800,000. This is a significant investment that farmers make, which is supposed to last a number of years before replacements and repairs, with the usage life of many of these major farm equipment purchases being 15 to 20 years. The California Rice Commission warns the current lack of commercialization for these zero-emission options poses a major problem, not just in 2035, but for all equipment investments made over the next 15 years. Even as some new electric harvesting materials start to roll out, they come at a higher price tag and in products available for purchase. Another layer to this issue that will be problematic is charging stations and batteries for these electric harvesters. Most farmers are located in rural areas with limited access to electrical resources. The development of a whole new infrastructure will be critical to almost all California farmers and ranchers in the near future. Electric tractor batteries are reported to only handle about 5 hours of heavy work, and swappable battery packs are hitting the shelves at about $18,000 each. The average cost of installing an electric charging station for passenger vehicles ranges from $1,000 to $2,500, and that's just for a car Imagine the cost for a whole fleet of tractors and trucks. Enforcement of these regulations is also cause for concern. First, the language lacks clarity. Verbiage such as goal and where feasible leaves farmers wondering what the governor considers to be feasible. There is no direct plan for action, but restrictions and regulations have already begun to fall into place. These are enforced by California Air Resources Board, also known as CARB, a government agency well known for setting stricter standards for California's air gas emissions. One example of these standards affecting California agriculturalists is the truck and bus regulation. This requires that any vehicle used for agricultural operations must have an engine of a 2010 year model or newer. There was an agricultural mileage extension that expired as of January 1st. So now farmers are forced to buy new equipment to comply with this regulation. This has real effects on people like Tom Charter of TMP Farms, who says that he had to replace a whole fleet of perfectly functional off-road dust control vehicles, dump trucks, and semi-trucks that can no longer be used legally. He says that this restriction, along with its additional costs, will make it increasingly hard to compete in the global market. These relatively new purchases will soon be outdated, impossible to maintain, and possibly illegal, as the mandate for all electric vehicles comes in a few years. Private business owners should have the right to make investments when it makes fiscal sense and not when a lawmaker dictates. To add insult to injury, this monumental policy change was brought about by one man through an executive order and not by the state legislature. A commonly made argument is that such acts are saving our environment from climate change. While conserving our environment is critical, it is equally important that the proper procedures are taken to implement change without causing more issues. Agriculturalists are truly environmentalists whose passion and livelihood rely on natural resources. Farmers and ranchers are being treated as an enemy to climate change when they should be treated as a solution. In fact, the Center for Climate and Energy Solutions reports that the U.S. cropland soil currently sequesters about 20 million metric tons of carbon per year, and its full potential can be up to 7 times higher. This carbon benefit far outweighs the emissions on any farm. Farmers positively impact the environment, and most producers, like my family's rice farm, are making changes like implementing sustainability practices, such as no-till farming, integrated pest management, and precision agriculture. There are many things that farmers can do to help combat climate change, but with time, a plan, and a budget. Farmers should not be hurt financially in an attempt to find a solution to the issue. This executive order will hurt the agricultural industry today and in the future. This executive order will hurt California agriculturalists by bombarding them with unnecessary expenses, disregarding their rights as business owners, and affronting the strongest allies in the fight against climate change. We need to assess this issue without losing respect for all agriculturalists and hardworking people in this state. This state's priorities should be aligned with the people who make it the farm to fork capital, because they are the true heart of California. Thank you. Here you are. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen, you want to get your picture? You want me to get on this one? All three of you. We'll go fast.
Don't become like a little bit of everything. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great job.
Well done. And before we move on, I'd also just like to acknowledge Stacy Dutra. I know she's going to know her, but she's in the audience. And Stacy is one of our other ed teachers at Yuba City High School, and she's going to be retired this year, the end of the year. But Eileen and Stacy and other teachers at Yuba City Home have done a wonderful job building that program and working with our students like Rick Gallagher. So thank you to Stacy. Thank you to Eileen, but Stacy, congratulations.
Moving on to staff recognition.
I definitely feel like I was supposed to come up here and do a spin, unbutton some things. A jacket, of course. And then give a big speech. Well, there's a lot to live up to. Very good.
Oh, golly.
Yes.
Save it for the end.
That's right. So good evening to our Board of Trustees, staff, and audience members. The board has prioritized time on the agenda to recognize members of the district staff who have engaged in unique or extraordinary acts to educate today's students to succeed in tomorrow's world. And in so doing, personifying the YCUSD mission, which states our students and staff will be lifelong learners, creative problem solvers, and responsible, ethical, and respectful contributors in a global society. The board has prioritized this time each meeting because recognition shapes a culture of overall excellence by increasing productivity, promoting retention of top performers, and encouraging ongoing improvement. With that, I'd like to pass the lectern off to two of our managers here this evening who will be sharing with you information about three of our staff members. And so, Jen, would you like to go first?
Sure.
All right. So would you bring both you and Mark, will you bring the section up with you?
We will.
Perfect.
Gary, can you meet me?
Good evening, Jen Kate. Thank you, board, cabinet, guests, and the audience. I want to introduce you tonight to Carrie Bavacqua, one of our school social workers. Carrie has been doing school social work for us for the last, this will be your 7th year, correct?
Since the beginning.
Yes. Since the beginning, one of our original social work hires, and prior to the pandemic. And I think that speaks volumes for this board's priorities as far as our students and our families' social emotional needs and the wraparound services that social workers have been able to provide. So what I want to say is her work probably every day. She's currently at Gray Avenue and Barry. Every day is extraordinary in our world. The stories that I hear, the feedback I get, the follow-up to conflict managements, to family visits. If I added up the number of home visits she's done in her last 7 years, we're probably well over 1,000 plus, right? The partnerships that she's created, but are all to be admired. But I think what you should know about Carrie is beyond her daily work as a school social worker, I've also got her doing all kinds of other things. And part of this is her stepping up and saying, oh, I want to do that. Oh, I'd like to be on that. I could be on that committee. I could help enhance our relationships. So one, she sits on my SARB board. So she's one of the original board members when we were recognized as a model SARB program. Carrie's a board member on that panel. Having a social worker on that panel speaks volumes as to where we place our priorities to the state of California when they recognized us with that model SARB award. She sits on the multidisciplinary displaced youth board. So our students who are precariously housed or unhoused, we sit on a team among the county and work and talk about what we can do for those families, what resources we have, and she sits on that board. The Juvenile Justice Commission. She's a commissioner of the Juvenile Justice, performs annual inspections at the Juvenile Hall and Camp Singer, and writes a report to the state of California based on the treatment of our youth here who are incarcerated and what we're doing as a community to prevent juvenile crime. I think one of the extraordinary pieces when I made this recommendation was the fact that she participated in recently in the homeless count that we had here in the county. So Carrie spent a good 4 or 5 hours walking down in the river bottoms, specifically looking for school-aged children. So she participated in that to help our community and get an accurate accounting, but she was specifically looking for anyone that might have needed her services, our services in the school district. And I think when you have somebody that goes above and beyond constantly, that's like, I'll do that. I'll show up for that, who gives of her time, of her energy, of her efforts, of herself. I think that deserves extra recognition. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I don't always volunteer for these things.
Sometimes it's
sometimes you can just volunteer to get nominated.
I'm so proud of you. We got to turn to Laura.
I got it.
Not just Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Carrie.
Summer by the Director of Facilities. Thank you for this opportunity to recognize outstanding employees that work for the district. We really appreciate that. And so I'm going to recognize Tiffany Campbell for her contributions in the facilities department. So Tiffany's been working for us over 3 years now, and she's had some major contributions. We've done a lot of projects over this last 3 years, and she's been heavily involved in all the project work. From working on, let me get a list here. She's been working on the bid package, bid tabulations, all the contracts, change orders, pay applications, and even the project closeout documents. And without her assistance, all this stuff would just be very difficult to manage. And Tiffany also assists with the daily operations of the facilities department. She works on tracking our budgets, make sure she creates the purchase orders before we make any purchases. And she also does a lot of soliciting vendors, make sure we get best pricing in our department. And she assists in assigning sub-custodians, which is a daily task for us. When custodians are absent, we're scrambling to make sure we got people in their places. And then also she has a huge support for site custodians as well as the maintenance staff whenever their needs are. They do call continually to our office, just assistance. It could be a lot of things from needing additional supplies, additional help, or even additional subs. And Tiffany is always there to support them. So Tiffany is very supportive, she's very professional, very smart, and provides the highest level of customer service department. So we are very honored and proud that Tiffany is part of the facilities department.
Years. Have a picture of the Thank you. Thank you very much.
One more we're going to honor facilities, and we have Jorge Cardano do the presentation for that, our supervisor of facilities.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jorge Arredondo, the facility supervisor. First, I'd like to say thank you for the district for the opportunity to recognize our outstanding employees. The facilities department has chosen Salvador Montejeño for his hard work and commitment to excellence. Sal has started with the district as a part-time groundskeeper assigned to River Bend. Over the past 2 years, Sal has become a full-time groundskeeper, head custodian, and most recently promoted to maintenance worker, which he's excelled in every position that he's been at. Sal currently assigned to the maintenance projects and had made huge contribution to the district office move, to the IT move. Sal is a hard worker, takes initiative, and has strong skill set and completes work to the highest quality. So thank you, Sal.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Our staff for all their hard work. I'm glad they're able to recognize for you done on that. Moving on to the report from the Student Mental Health Alliance.
Well, thank you. Here, you guys are behind the podium. You guys are, well, Mr. Lewis from Yuba City High School actually has been meeting to the board and talking to the board about concerns and suggestions regarding meeting the needs of our students' mental health needs. And two young ladies have been meeting with me and other staff to discuss the research they've done and also discussing the why behind their advocacy for the board to consider some next steps. And so Kira and Mary, you want to come up to the podium and introduce yourselves and for them who you are. And we have one more. That's fine. And tell them your grade level and talk to the board about why you're here.
Okay. We'll probably take turns speaking, but we'll first introduce ourselves. I'm Avery Key. I'm a junior at Yuba City High School.
I'm Kira Gallion. I'm also a junior at Yuba City High School.
I'm Isabel Reed, and I'm a senior at Yuba City High School.
All right, and from there, we'll let Kira take it away.
Members of the board, Superintendent Osumi, staff, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Kira Gallion, and I'm here to discuss with you the mental health crisis. In the last decade, the youth mental health crisis has become the new status quo, such a normalcy that people ignore and dismiss the ongoing issue as if it simply doesn't exist. However, while neglecting to acknowledge the mental health epidemic, we put ourselves in a false reality. Societies often turn a blind eye to the youth mental health crisis, and if our community continues to overlook the issue, not only will individuals continue to suffer, but the community as a whole. The mental health crisis has taken the world by storm, affecting people all over the globe, including those in our own community. With the increased pressures of society, our generation's mental health has rapidly declined. The growing stress factors of social media, relationships, school, and more have weighted heavily on our mental health. The strain of our increasingly pressing world has taken its toll, causing this generation to be in a constant state of distress, anxiety, and pain. If we do not face the mental health crisis immediately, our society will continue to spiral down this path of depression, self-harm, and even worse, suicide. Declining mental health has occurred in both our nation and our own district, which is proven by widespread national data and evidence right here in front of us. According to the recent report by the CDC, drawn from statistics from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, nearly 57% of high school girls have reported experiences of consistent feelings of sadness and or hopelessness. Within that 57%, at least 30% of girls have revealed that at some point they contemplated attempting suicide. Let me reiterate that, 30%. 1 in every 3 high school girls has considered taking their own life. From those same statistics, the CDC had announced that almost 69% of LGBTQ teens have also experienced persistent feelings of sadness. And in that, 22% actually did attempt suicide. And our has mimicked what the CDC report displays. Within our own English department at Yuba City High School, we collected similar data through a voluntary survey. In a survey of just over 470 students, more than 30% of those students revealed signs of clinical depression, anxiety, and or overstress. Not only does our own survey provide evidence of our youth mental health crisis, but the 2 recent suicides in our own district. Close to 4 months ago, a 17-year-old girl who attended River Valley High School felt so distressed that the only way of relieving her pain was to take her own life. Nearly 3 years ago, a girl in 6th grade who attended Andros Carperos Middle School also took her own life. A girl struggling so deeply that she thought her only option was to hang herself. This is utterly unacceptable. Our community has neglected the growing mental health epidemic for far too long, and it has gone way out of hand. Our students are suffering, and our community is struggling. Immediate attention to the youth mental health crisis is needed in order to prevent more of our youth from this pain. Dropping graduation and attendance rates correlate to this exponential growth of mental health problems. I stand here today to present what we have decided to call the Student Mental Health Alliance.
The Student Mental Health Alliance is here to propose the idea that bringing on-campus therapists to our high schools would aid us through this crisis, giving free, accessible care to every student at the high school in order to address the growing rates of depression, anxiety, as well as many other mental health problems. The youth mental health crisis has stemmed from the world's repudiation, rejection on social media, rejection by others, and rejection of one's identity. Please do not reject the mental health crisis any longer, or else this epidemic will only continue to spread. Thank you.
Hi, again, my name is Isabel Reed. And with her full permission, I'm going to be sharing a story about my sister who graduated YCHS last year. All throughout high school, my sister struggled with her mental health. She self-harmed severely and often, and she had frequent suicidal thoughts. In her sophomore year, she was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and that was about 3 years ago. When she was in high school, when her depression would get really bad some days, she would go to her school counselor and say, like, I'm struggling and I need help. Like, I need some mental help here. And all her counselor could really do is offer her some alone time in the quiet room or just send her home. Our school counselors are not trained for the issues that our students are facing. What my sister experienced is a current reality for many, many students at YCHS. And I think if my sister had access to a school therapist that was licensed and trained to help her cope with her thoughts and her feelings of her depression, then she could have had a way better mental state in high school, and she could have been a way more successful student than she was. There are so many students that go to school and they share horror stories about what's going on at home or what they're feeling and what's going on inside their head. And most of the time they share it with other high school students who can't help in any meaningful way. Gaining a therapist at this age takes time and it takes help from parents. And if you feel like you can't trust your parents, then the horror stories just keep coming and they keep getting shared and nothing gets done about it. I believe that if we have free on-campus therapy for all students at YCHS, the kids that are suffering can finally start feeling some peace and can work through these issues and these mental illnesses at a younger age. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, superintendent, audience, we know that tonight has been very heavy for a lot of you. We understand that society often chooses to ignore these issues and this excruciating pain for a reason. It is extremely difficult to listen to others' stories of life-altering pain and suffering. And that is why, as a society, a lot of us close ourselves off to open discussion because it makes us feel uncomfortable. But what we have to recognize is that feeling where you begin to writhe in your chair and your stomach begins to clench up. That is you innately recognizing the crisis without wanting to physically acknowledge it. So while most of us would like to distance ourselves from the current student mental health crisis, I am here along with my other student advocates and our supporters of the Student Mental Health Alliance to implore you to please allow yourselves to become uncomfortable. Because are we truly living in a world where 1 out of 3 young females has to consider taking their own lives before there's talk of reform? Are we truly part of a community where 2 young females have taken their lives in the last 3 years and still no one has bothered to step up? Well, I personally have had enough. I know we can do better. You know that we can do better. I'm tired of sitting in class, listening to the people behind me talk about how they go home and cut themselves. I'm tired of students constantly resorting to violence on campus. I'm tired of watching my friends carry loads so heavy that it physically drains them. I am tired of worrying. I am tired of crying. I am tired of being tired. But we are not here today for the sole purpose of ruining your thought for the future of our generation. We are here because we at the Yuba City Unified School District have the opportunity to stop the stigmatization of mental health and to instead provide our students with the necessary resources that they deserve. By instituting programs of on-campus therapy at both high schools in the district, the Yuba City Unified School District would be taking an extremely significant step towards the prioritization of our students' mental health needs. On-campus therapy gives services that are accessible to all students regardless of their personal situation. And through months of determined petitioning, our students have been able to gather over 1,000 signatures of support from students, staff, and members of our community. Over 1,000. So through today's presentation, we, as representatives of the student body, have put ourselves in a vulnerable position because we know that we cannot keep going like this. We can't keep watching our classmates struggle through such intense pain without receiving the help that they deserve. We have opened ourselves up to you in the hopes of inspiring change and securing our future. We have presented to you the problem. We have presented to you the solution. And now it is up to you all to ensure the protection of our lives. We leave this in your highly capable hands. Thank you for your time and support on behalf of the Student Mental Health Alliance.
So based upon our meetings with Avery and Kira, we have actually started to do our own research. So we've been in contact with a district who has wellness centers that are staffed with licensed clinical social workers, I believe. And so we are in the process of gathering information. We have a person that works at the Sac County Office of Education who started the Roseville program. We'll also be going to look at some sites, but we'll be providing a proposal to the board in terms of an action plan and for the board to consider in terms of implementation of such type of program. And so I promised the ladies that I would keep them updated, but there is a recommendation from the individual from Roseville and Sac County that this is not something that you just throw together, that it needs to take some time and thought. It's in terms of surveying our students in terms of the types of services and types of areas that we would be addressing. Also, the funding that will be required to keep this sustainable if the board so chose to implement this, because it's something you wouldn't want to start and then have fall apart because of funding. And so there's some homework that we need to do, and there's a recommendation that this is a 9 to 12 month process to really do it well. We have wellness centers going in both high schools, and so we have the structure for it, but it's the actual implementation of what that would look like. So I will be bringing back a report to the board. We'll be updating Avery, Kira, and Mr. Loomis, and so that is the game plan that I've established.
I have a question. When are you planning these visits?
So, I know that we were trying to get them done.
We have one scheduled in May and then one probably in April to Roseville.
Oh, absolutely. So we've got some information. Jen Cates has been working with some individuals and getting this looks like it's lost parents. So we're gathering information, but want to do this thoughtfully if this is where the board so chose to the direction that you'd like us to go. So,
thank you. And thank you for presenting, of course. Moving on to master facility planning. Speaking of that, you come up with stuff a lot.
Thanks for coming, y'all. Thank you.
So we're giving everybody a little time to shuffle out. It is. I agree with you. Okay, so I'd like to introduce Mariana Lavezzo, if I got that correct.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. She's Director of School Planning for LPA. This is the firm that is doing our facilities master planning that the board approved a little over a year ago. And Mariana's here to give us an update on the process and where we're at, next steps.
Can you give like a 60-second overview of what a facilities master plan is for those who were here? You can do that.
That's part of it.
Okay,
Yes, because it's our first time meeting with you, so I'm keeping it pretty broad. Yeah, so good evening, governing board. I also want to introduce Ann Criddle, who's on the team as a designer who came to attend and see what we're doing. So this will be a broad overview. Up there I have the agenda. We're just going to explain what it is we're doing, the process, the groups that have been involved, the work that's been done on the facility condition assessments and what that means, a little bit on our work in progress on analyzing if universal TK can fit on elementary school sites, a little bit about the work we've done with the educators for the educational specs, which are like design guidelines, and then a list that shows district-wide patterns that we've seen for needs on the campuses and the design strategies that would take care of those needs. So at the end, there's a lot that we've done, so I only have 10-ish minutes. So at the end of your doc, there were Google Drive links that take you to all the deliverables that we've done so far. So basically, our process is overlaying quantitative data, which are the numbers that we get from things like the cost estimates that are in the facility condition assessments, the demographic studies, and the qualitative folks like the educational visioning workshop that we kicked off with educational leadership, then going to all the campuses and interviewing the site admin there, finding out what their needs were and what like a gap analysis of what they would be missing to meet that new North Star that the educational leadership envisioned. And then folding in your goals, like your LCAP goals. So all of this needs to get overlaid to create your master plan. And so it's really those numbers, the data, the quantitative work, the work we did with your educators, all to get equity across the district. So equity in this context means on some campuses, you might have like 2 science labs and one is really great and kind of new and the other one's really old. And so then as a student, it's your luck of the draw, which teacher you get, which built environment you get, right? So that's not equitable. So we were looking for things like that when we went to each camp. And then district-wide, same thing. If you go to this school versus that school,
you should have the same opportunities. So the built environment should be supporting that vision that the district has for delivering education at all your schools. It doesn't mean every school gets exactly the same thing. They just get what they need to make it equitable for the students. So community outreach is a thread throughout. This is really a co-creative process with the people. So we have a survey that's been rolled out, and the students take it in class. So we'll have very high numbers for that. We already have a good number there. And then we'll nudge the community. I'll explain when we're going to have town halls, but that's an opportunity to show the QR code and say, look, here's the data from what the students have answered, and just synthesize what that means. It means they all, 80% agree on this, 65% agree on that. There's this, but then we only have this many from the community that have taken it, so please take it. So we'll get more information to fold in there. So these are all the groups that have been involved. We have a facility master plan committee. We've met twice. That's made up of a diverse group of 50% from the district and about 50% from the broader community. They are making decisions, but in a co-creative fashion with you. We will have a special workshop with you later in the process after we have the new diagrams and we have the cost estimates for every single project in those. And that's where the rubber will hit the road. It's perfectly normal for any district. You're going to have more needs than whatever the budget is that is established by the district. So we'll have to make some tough decisions and say, what are the projects that will have the most impact? And those are the ones that are in the master plan for phase one. But they are making this decisions based on everything that we're feeding them of as far as the debriefs from all our different forms of engagement. And so there's the school site input. Those are the campus visioning workshops I talked about. They're making sure that they come to the town halls and they get more people to join their group, and they spread the word at their sites to get the community to come to the town halls. The outreach is in the form of the surveys and then the town hall forum. And then your deliverable is going to be a website. So we'll put the draft website up this summer in July, and it'll start to spread the word. It kind of serves as a public relations piece too, for people to know that you're doing this important work and they should engage with it and support it. So the schedule is like a little hard to read. I know for me, it's normal. For a lot of people, it makes you go cross-eyed because it's not like a regular project. When you build something, you have schematic design development, you build it, and that's it. There's a lot of overlapping of schedules, but you can see the orange bar community outreach is throughout. And so we're going for a board approval in October. So we're on track right now to do that. So this is just a breakdown of like what's coming next. So the next big things are that we're having the town halls May 22nd and May 20th. A little bit how that's being promoted and will be promoted. These are all the steps, like kind of the major meetings that we need to have to get to that finish line for October board approval. So here are some flyers that we made, a digital version and a print version. And so Doreen and Pam have reached out to all the sites and asked them to really make sure they're putting this in their school newsletter, printing it out, doing whatever it takes. Every site maybe is different. Maybe some need it printed in backpacks, so that'll vary, but basically just help us spread the word. So there's 2 town halls because we divided it by school attendance area. So for example, April Lane is only on this night. It's not going to be on the 24th. So that's that. And then the needs assessments. This is our subconsultant, Bureau Veritas, which the district hired directly to do the ADA scope at the same time. It was efficient to do it that way. So they went through every campus and did a very detailed, comprehensive report that shows the condition of all like 6 different parts of the building, like from the building envelope, the systems, the site, and all of that gets a rating. And so when we translated those ratings into grades, because they're kind of like number ranges, it doesn't mean that much to you. It means a lot to Mark, but to the rest of us, it's kind of hard to digest. So basically, it just shows if we translate that, you have a lot of classes or a lot of campuses that are just in, mediocre condition, like in the C range. Yes, you have a question.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask a quick question? When it comes to the grades, it doesn't correlate necessarily with how many, for lack of a better word, infractions there are, but maybe correlates to category of infraction? Is that kind of how it correlates?
I don't know
compliance.
What you mean by, like code, meaning code. That's part of it. So that's something that needs to get fixed. Like they'll find like this is not to code. It needs to get fixed. So it gets a lower rating. This system isn't working properly. It needs to get fixed, right? So that's all fed into the rating.
And that impacts the rating.
Yes. Their report also shows what needs to be replaced when, so they could see from the information Mark gave and from their visual observation, like this roof needs to be replaced in 3 years. So then that cost is plugged into here, and it shows like it's going to be our must-do list. So to do any of these projects, we can't just jump to the project. Like if some campus needs a new library, we have to take care of the things that are on our must-do list. So those numbers, the dollar amounts, are going to be folded into our cost estimate, but broken out as a separate item. So whatever our budget is, we have to subtract the must-dos from that. That work is given that everything needs to be to code and prepared.
I have a question. This just might be a stupid question, but I'm just
No.
Just like out there, how come Barry and Terraplana don't have like exact dates?
Exact dates?
Don't know for like construction dates. That's what I'm saying.
I think because the original it's not the original building from the 20s. There's like a series of different buildings built, so that one's not that accurate. But the first buildings were in the 20s. Yeah, it's a good question. Okay, so another way, and we can crunch data any way you'd like, but this is one that we have found helpful. Where we look at the percentage of students on the campuses that are from a socioeconomically disadvantaged population. So then we apply numbers like saying 1 is the lowest percentage of that population, and 5 is the highest. So these are just things like you don't need to like do anything with it right now, but when we get to that tough project prioritization stage, this is something to think about, right? We want to have as much impact as we can on this population.
So let me ask you a question about it. This one is really confusing to me. So with the equity ratings, you go back a slide.
Yeah, and it's the same right there. I'm just showing them side by side.
I wanted to see this stuff on the left-hand side. Socioeconomic disadvantage, English learners, foster youth, special ed, and homeless. All of that is one grouping.
It's been aggregated, yeah, and we can break it out if you would like us to.
But okay, so I'm looking just for example at Yuba City High School. It's got a 1. Does that mean it doesn't have very many of that, or that it has a lot of that?
So 1 means lowest and 5 means highest. So the range is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you go up in number, that means you have a higher percentage of that population.
Correct number for Yuba City High School.
That just seems very strange to me. That
it seems too low to you?
You are right. The data is incorrect. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
So it seems like it's too low.
Well, a lot of those 5s and 4s.
I know Yuba City High School really well.
So for the 5s and 3s to be in a school that's a 1, that doesn't seem like it correlates.
Okay.
If that makes sense. It could be a school size or something, I don't know, but it doesn't really make sense.
Okay.
And I think it is school census percentage. Yuba City High School is obviously a very large school. So with all the schools going into it, it might be a lower percentage of socioeconomic disadvantage compared to the entire population.
Okay, so yeah, and we can show the math too, how we did it.
Okay.
And maybe
if I thought I was reading it wrong, but
no, it's helpful because data is just data. Like there's other things behind it sometimes that we need to understand. So this is just recent that we pulled this together. So we can look at that more carefully. And then we recently started looking at the demographics report that was completed by King Consultant just in early March. And so district-wide findings are that historically the enrollment has been on a decline, 9.8% from 2013 to 2022. And then looking forward, enrollment is expected to stabilize due to incoming TK enrollment and new residential development. So these are just kind of the big nuggets that we got so far from the demographics, and tell us also, again, like data is just data. There might be something else at play that we need to factor in. So again, from their report, the projected universal TK enrollment should steadily increase over the next 7 years. So for 23-24, it's projected that that's 40% of the kinder population, the TKers. And then jump to 29-30, they're going to jump from 40% to be 86% of that population. So we do, and the district does anticipate that universal TK, full day TK, will gain popularity over time. So that's part of our scope, is doing an analysis to see if it can fit on campuses. And then that information is given to the district to see what to do next. If you have campuses that say have a half day cohort and TK in the morning and one in the afternoon, and they're sharing a room, that's great. But then if you go to full time, they can't share a room anymore. You need to build a whole new room. There's also nuances, like if you have a TK that has no restroom inside, that's not to code and it doesn't count as if you already have one. You got to fix that. Then there's other things like the play yards and things like that. So it's a whole analysis to see if it'll fit or not fit. Another one about demographics is basically we're using the 29-30 projections for our planning purposes. So because this is a long range master plan. We're using campus-specific projections for the TK student capacity, and then we're analyzing the existing capacity for full-day TK. And then what I was saying about the code, they have to be compliant with CDE, with existing and new. So a little bit about the work we did with your educators. Part of our scope entails design guidelines required by the California Department of Education to be board approved. So whenever you roll out one of these projects in the after the master plan, your architect is going to be looking at these guidelines and applying them. They still need to meet with the user groups on the campus to really understand what they need. But this is going to give you parity district-wide. Everybody's on the same page. So for example, like technology will be in here. We want to make sure there's consistency district-wide in the technology. We don't want uncertainty of a teacher being here and then it's totally different over here on this campus. So the ed specs show for every space type, what are the learning activities happening there? How can the built environment support that? Then down to the qualities and features and the elements of the space, or things like furniture, lighting, acoustics, surfaces, all that is baked into these guidelines. So they include some standards too. So we met with educational leadership for 2 afternoons for workshops. Pre-COVID, we used to do this a full day. I know it's so hard to find subs. So we just, they powered through this and did it 2 afternoons when they were tired after school, but they did a wonderful job. We showed them things like reminding them of your mission and vision and keeping that in mind, and that what we wanted to get out of them is, what is your vision for education, so that we can translate that into the guidelines for the built environment. So while the facility condition assessments were being done, then it was good to do this because the educational vision really needs to drive the master plans. So we have enough so far for what we've pulled out. We did reports for all the focus groups that we followed up with, and we can use those to inform the master plans that we're working on. So here's some shots of people in those 2 afternoons working very hard. We had each table work as a group, focusing on, one was early childhood, one was lower grades elementary, upper grades elementary, middle, and high school. We had 2 breakouts for different high school schedules. And so we gave them a child persona that was in the most challenging of circumstances, with something going on outside of school that would affect their behavior in school. And it's not to say that's the average child at Yuba, but it's saying that if you can cover, it's a lot related to what the students were talking about. If you can address like a child that has those needs, then you're covering everybody if your environment is going to support that as well and make the school experience better for them so they're all able to thrive. And so what came out of it is like we really want to help students become experts at learning, because they're going to have to keep learning. It's not like maybe when a lot of us my age went to school, it was more like focusing on like, what are you going to do for a career? Maybe that would be your whole career. They're going to keep changing careers, and there's careers that don't even exist yet. So basically there was a shift from like today we're doing a lot of teacher-led activity. Students need to be told what to do next. And so that's the blue, the 29%. And then it squeezed down to 4% when they did the same exercise. So the first one was mapping out, what is that child, what is their day like today and all these different learning activities? How much time do they spend in all the learning activities and how do they feel? Then the second afternoon, after doing more visioning exercises, we asked them to do it again 15 years from now. And so that was the big shift that we saw. And so when we went to the campuses, we shared the highlights of that workshop with them and the highlights of the focus groups that came, and said, think about that as this gap analysis for your campus. So this is the guiding principle statement that they have drafted, and we'll help wordsmith it to make it a bit more distilled. So when it's on your website, it's kind of like shouting it from the rooftop, like something easy to remember and in your mind. So the words on the left are kind of like the big nuggets that came out of that statement. So we'll come up with something that's like in between the longer one and the shorter, like 5 lines of things that bubble to the top from that guiding principle. So those are the 9 focus groups that we did following that educational visioning workshop. By doing that, we could see what they were bringing up that they thought was most important. So we followed up by meeting with 3 to 5 people for each group and asking them more detailed questions than we did with the larger group. So down all the things that are going to inform the design guidelines. So this is the last section. Oops, the PowerPoint got kind of messed up with the not using our PDF, but those arrows are supposed to align with each thing. So like improving vehicular circulation is a need, and the strategy is to redesign parking lots and dedicate each item on the left. On the right is the corresponding strategy. In red are items that are new spatial typologies that you don't have at the district. So there was a lot of talk about how our admin needs to feel more welcoming. So in a lot of sites, it's too small. It can get really crowded and chaotic. It doesn't have soft seating or nice place to sit down. It's a little bit institutional feeling. There's a lot of like wraparound support services and different things like learning centers and wellness centers and counseling that could all be part of what we would now call a welcome center that contains the admin. Wellness centers, you have them at all the campuses. A lot of them are in portables, but maybe on some of the campuses, we're going to be showing that as in a permanent space and as part of that new welcome center one day. So here are some more strategies, needs and strategies. There is a big one the district's already doing is providing furniture that's going to support flexibility so that students can learn in many different ways in one space. They don't all have to be doing the same thing at the same time anymore. Like when many of us went to school, it was like that. There was a lot about needing to tailor for middle and high schooler needs. So these are all the ones that came from when we went to the campuses. We saw these patterns like going to every single campus. So things like we need locker rooms and gyms, and we need to help middle schoolers be better able to connect with each other, like more social interaction and movement that are key indicators of health. And it is an awkward age and development in middle school. So finding ways to do that better than we're doing right now.
Next to last one on there just hurts me. I'm an English teacher. Library be less book centric.
Well, it's not getting rid of the books at all, but that's what came from there. So they were saying like reimagining it to like be more of a place where students can collaborate and do lots of different things, not only for books, but definitely not. I didn't hear anybody say get rid of all the books, not to that extreme. Okay. And so that'll
Sunday's table.
Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be in the design guidelines, and the district is going to review that and vet it. So it's not us. We're just getting the information and putting it in there, and then the district will have a page turn with that. So we'll make sure that we're not getting rid of all the books. So more, one big one we saw is like a pain point is that like after school, a lot of programs are using classrooms. So then they kick the teacher out that would be using it for prep after school. And then the room isn't put back the way it was. There are the lack of space for arts, and with Prop 28, there's going to be more funding for arts in the future. Especially elementary schools that could house the arts and after school programs and enrichment programs. That's a new spatial typology. A lot of clamoring for more thermally comfortable outdoor space. It gets so hot here, and there's a lack of shade for students to use for outdoors for dining and learning. So really validating those spaces by saying, they were saying, we'll not just use it for dining, but we'll use it for learning. Like we just really need shade. So that was a big one. And then the landscaping outdoor areas with zoned activities is there's a lot of outdoor space that is just like undefined. And so like providing programming for it and some elements like furniture and shade would make it usable. So even for middle schoolers, there were ideas like, can we offer them a place where they could do cornhole and giant Jenga, like get them off their screens and interacting with each other. So that's like an example of programming in outdoor space. So that's all I have. I thought maybe I didn't turn my timer on. Sorry, I hope I didn't go too long. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a comment. I'm not on that committee, but I just kind of in light of what we've been hearing a lot, but just when we look at student wellness, and if we're looking at it from a student lens, I think, and the socioeconomic development of our community, I just like to advocate for having, a washer and dryer at every site, because I feel like that is a need that our community and our students can benefit from. And then possibly like a food pantry. I don't know logistics, how that fits in, but I just like to advocate for that as we're in this phase. When we get to the end phase, that's something that.
Well, that's something we could bake into the specs, the design guidelines, and that new welcome center admin, right? That it could contain a space, a laundry, and a food pantry, right? And then again, the district will be reviewing all of these guidelines. And so the guidelines also need to be taken case by case. Like maybe at River Valley High School, you don't need that. So it doesn't mean they get the same another school gets, right? But it's in there, and it's got the square footages and all the details for the sites that do need it, right?
Maybe I could just say a couple quick things. First of all, we're still early in the process, right? So this is really engagement. We're still getting ideas. And so there's going to be a lot of room for input on that. And I just want to hit kind of the purpose on just a more basic level. This is a lot of great detail, and Mariana's done a great job of explaining the engagement process and where we're at. But it's a best practice for a school district to really have long-term, long-range plans for your facilities, and this is just a process to really get all that input. These facilities, there's definitely, there's been some building of schools, in the early 2000s, but a lot of our facilities are, as you saw some of the dates there, 1920s, 50s, 60s, just a ton of, improvement in, 50, 60, 70 years, and that's a really long time. So this is a really long range planning, envisioning. So when we, start looking at how we're going to maintain and implement projects, that it's been done through a very well thought out process and engaging with the community. So
yeah, it's just basically a strategic roadmap so that every move you make into your master plan, that's a strategic roadmap. You're not just reacting and putting up portables. Like we hope to be able to remove portables and relocate them and put them into permanent construction over time, right?
I'm sure you have more questions for Mariana, but also there's another component that we haven't talked about yet, but we will, is this costs a lot of money. So, you know, a part of this process will be talking about how do school districts fund this kind of stuff. And so that'll be a part of the discussion as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay. Well,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
All right, moving forward, there's no comments from the public for items not on the agenda, correct? All right. Moving on to the consent agenda, I understand there was a question on 13D. Did you want to?
Yeah, I just have a really quick question. I'm sure I looked at disposal of surplus property, and there was a surplus code that was D. What does that mean?
That's a disposal. So those are obsolete and determined not to have value. And so those are disposal items.
So, okay, so they're going to some landfill somewhere. Is that basically what happens to them?
Well, ideally, if they have the ability to be recycled, that'll be the process, or they'll go to landfill if there's not a process there.
Because I know Jasmine might be on this too, but you know, sometimes when we have things, if we're just going to dispose of them, is there any time we can offer them to people who might want them or need them, or is there some legality that says we can't?
Yeah, there really is. So what we actually are looking into doing right now is to make items that the board determines that are surplus. We have the ability to auction them off. So these are taxpayer dollars that have come in. So we can't give stuff away necessarily. There's a process to do that. But generally, the most recognized and best practice for school districts is to put items up for auction so people can bid on them. And sometimes they're bid for $1. I mean, seriously, that actually happens at some of these government auctions.
Yeah, military wife, I get that.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, you know, if there's a bookcase sitting there that they're getting rid of because there's new furniture and a family needs a bookcase, you know, it just to me seems we're just going to dispose of stuff when there's need. That just hurts me.
I thought we did. I know we did talk about that for the furniture coming up for the next phase that we were going to be looking into. But that's maybe another conversation to be applied to this.
Yeah, again, that would typically, as our board policy states, the best practice for government agencies, you know, it would be more of an auction scenario, but
well, we can touch base with you after. I had a question on the consent agenda as well. On the intercoms, the F and G and EFG. And I apologize for not bringing this up when we talked earlier. Can you tell me kind of what they will be doing, or?
So the good news is we have invited our director of maintenance and facilities here tonight, but we have a number of things that are facilities related. So if the board is okay to recognize Mr. Button on some of these topics. So
better news that Corey's here. Because that's his expertise. So what was the specific question?
I was just asking what the capabilities would be for these intercoms. And I guess I can give you a little bit of background as to why I'm asking. In light of, you know, the school shootings and just I just want to know as far as the intercoms that we're putting in, does it have those like safety features, or is there something that?
So we actually have installed some of these newer styles.
Okay.
They're IP based. They come, so on a few of the sites that we installed the newer style, they come with the switch for a lockdown. Stop, just has to hit the red button. It'll send a lockdown alert over the intercom system and put the whole system on check, the whole site on check that it's in lockdown. So the newer systems have a little bit more capabilities, and they have an announcement. They can be picked. They can say whatever you want to say. You can do a custom one. So they have multiple options for safety purposes.
Perfect. And then is the intercom housed in one location or is it at
Yes.
any?
So, well, there's different components in on different areas of the site, depending how large the site is. Sometimes it needs components in other areas to be able to hook up the units. But the head unit, the main part of the unit is always in the IDF cabinet room, which is in one of the central location on the site.
So for example, last question. So for example, if I am at AK, which I am, can it be that Principal Greco or Principal Principal Hare or anybody else, like even if it's like attendance clerk, anybody in the main office, can they access their phone system to then tap into the intercom?
Can.
Just do a quick, it's like a 2-3 button or something that says,
They can. Yes, all the phones, all the admin phones should have one button that hooks up to their to the intercom system, and then they enter a 4-digit code, and it'll do an all call throughout the whole campus. Or they can even call individual classrooms if needed. There's multiple things for that.
Appreciate it.
And I heard you say it's IP based.
Yes.
Yeah. So does that mean if the internet goes down, these are new? They don't work, right?
Well, depends. So they still maintain some internal functions. So clocks will still work. There's still some capabilities.
We also have battery backups on our main system in the technology closets, so it gives us some functionality. But I hear where you're going with this.
And I'm sure the internet never goes down on any of our campuses.
Well, essentially it's IP based, but it doesn't mean it doesn't function. So it's still hardwired. On most of the classrooms are hardwired, but it also makes it easier when we expand. We only need a data drop to add a speaker and clock combo. So it's also easier to expand on the site when we do try to expand our sites. So.
Okay, I just don't want to be handicapped when it comes to safety.
There's apps too, sorry, and there's apps that all staff have on their phones where any administrator could say code blue or whatever code it is, and then it would ping to all of our all staff on that site. So if they're not able to use the capability, for example, of like the thing, then that's a secondary.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. There's no other questions. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
On a motion by member Dami and a second by member Ciociolo to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Moving on to action items. 14A, Sportsman suspended contract revision.
I make a motion we approve as discussed in closed session.
I second the motion. On a motion by member Dami and a second by member Quilty to approve as discussed in closed session. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. Moving on to 14B, approval of Yuba City Unified School District's transportation plan.
Yes, so there is a new grant for the 22-23 school year, and this will be an ongoing grant to fund transportation. There are some, I wouldn't say strings attached, but some hoops we got to jump through, and that is, just approving the plan and describing what we're doing. So the priorities for this grant are in line with what we're already doing or doing. Prioritize services to TK through 6, special education, and homeless. So we went through an engagement process as described in the plan, and we're expecting approximately $1.3 million from the grant going forward for transportation services.
Would that help us find bus drivers?
The activities of our that we're continuing will help us find bus drivers as we're training them up right now, but this won't really do that.
So is this? I'm sorry, you raised your hand.
I raised my hand. Let's be okay. All right. So your revenue calculation is based on this grant, correct?
Yes.
That's in your document that's attached, right? So that's the 1.3 million. Okay. So that's not our current budget for transportation. That's just this grant.
Right. So it's based on prior year numbers. So since our prior year numbers were actually pretty low, our grant is lower that $1.3 million is kind of a lower number. As we fully staff, our expenses will, so the grant, the ongoing grant will always be based on prior year expenses.
60% reimbursement.
Yes. So as we get fully staffed and our expenses go up, the grant will be a little bit larger going forward as well.
I see. Okay, so then the expenditures and other financing uses, we're still operating at a deficit.
So transportation is not really a funded program anymore. So this has always been where we take, well, yeah. So we funded out of Fund 1 essentially out of our LCFF.
Okay.
It's one of our LCFF.
Okay, and then $600,000 on books and supplies for transportation. Is that gas?
That's fuel.
That's just fuel. That's not
just fuel, but that I don't know.
596 million.
Yeah, exactly. 596. It's a lot.
Okay, so all right, so but that goes under books and supplies of 4,000.
Yeah, those are major categories for school accounting and anything. Yeah.
But that's not like vehicle upkeep or anything like that. That's in a separate.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. It's supplies for repairs because we have a shop. So I'm sorry. It's all that stuff too.
Okay.
It's tires. It's gas. It's all that stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
That's expensive in the budget.
For gas.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Another motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by member Dami and a second by member Cianciola to approve the transportation plan. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. Motion carried. Approval of YCHS gym mechanical project.
So a lot of these are, as you see, the projects that we're continuing. Mark did a good job of on a staff report of explaining it. But if you have any additional questions, if they're technical in nature, I think I will defer to Mr. Button.
Other questions?
Is this in alignment with, like these are just must?
These are must-dos.
Yeah.
These are end of life.
Must-dos, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 14C and 14D are essentially, I believe, the same thing, or have to deal with the same thing. So I can make a motion to combine this.
Just do one at a time. Okay.
All right, I'll do one at a time. Let me motion to approve 14C.
Second.
Motion by member Dami and a second by member Cianciola. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. 14B.
There's no questions.
On a motion by member Dami and a second by member Core to approve item 14D. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. And 14E, carbon dioxide monitoring.
Also, Mark Button, I will tell you that we did a similar project at my last district, and essentially, too much carbon dioxide in the classroom makes you sleepy. So, so you get these monitors on there, and then but it's true. But really, this is just the levels that get too high, and it really actually makes people sleep in the classroom. So these are levels that actually open up and economizers that let fresh air into the classroom, and it's better learning environment.
Wouldn't it be cheaper to provide house plants?
I don't think that would work.
That's what I'd ask. Make sure we have openable windows, fresh air in them.
So these are these gonna go onto the AC units or something?
These are actually going inside the classrooms that monitor the AC units.
Okay.
And that way the teachers will have control of it as well. So the intent is that it'll send a notification if the levels do reach a certain level.
So these will like connect to them.
Correct. It connects to them to the actual controls of the mechanical system that will open up the economizers.
But also some sort of central location, so that way district can also monitor, right?
Correct. We're able to monitor outside already. So it does tie into that system.
So they have some fancy software. They can see these levels, the intake, all the different, temperatures, and also helps you, I guess, when something's failing. We
troubleshoot the systems. And even if the principal calls or have problems, we can manage it off-site.
Sweet.
Do you know when I'm cheating on my thermostat?
There's still parameters set.
Oh, and the next thing about this is funded by a grant as well. So is it 100% funded or?
Yeah, scholarship.
So it's not coming out of your district funds.
And so this is just for monitoring that, it's not gonna adjust AC.
Assessments are part of the grant as well. So we do have more work coming. That's still part of the CalShape grant.
Does the panel, does it have additional capability? Like,
Well, it's just similar to a thermostat. It actually has the carbon dioxide readings as well.
Sorry, you said it's a thermostat?
It's similar to a thermostat is what it is. Just a display.
Well, if it's a thermostat, then, you know, it doesn't have the capability to become the thermostat as opposed to the dial.
And it will become. Yes, it's replacing that. It is the thermostat.
No, I have the opposite problem with it. Like, but sorry, that was, yeah. He's just thinking about it still. Yeah. Self-serving.
Do I have a motion for?
I make a motion, we approve.
I'll second it.
On a motion by member Dami and a second by member Brady to approve 14E. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. Shape structure. Anyone?
I make a motion to approve.
On a motion by member Ciociola and a second by member Lamb to approve 14F. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. Moving on to 14G.
I got just a quick question, comment, not really a question. This is a comment that I had with, or a question that I had with Scott earlier. So these shade structures are going in, just like playgrounds and things like that are going into. I guess maybe it's just a comment, and I'm sure you guys are already doing it, but if you guys notice any like issues or maybe like things that are a cause for caution that you guys are noticing with one shade structure, I guess with due diligence and monitoring that stuff when we have the next ones coming out or coming up, then we can like adjust prior.
Yeah, we do as part of quality control.
Oh, perfect.
We actually do have we hire a DSA inspector that goes through as they're being assembled to keep an eye on the contractors, and he's out there daily checking out the quality of their work.
Oh.
So that helps us also meet the DSA requirements for code.
Okay.
So they are monitored extremely close by the architect, by our DSA inspector, as well as we do our inspections. So, and then if they do see any problems or deviations, it's typically dealt with any deviations you find in a construction project. You know, the contractor usually submit in a request for information, the architect responds back, along with our site DSA inspector, they have their input. So there's a pretty thorough quality control process.
Perfect.
I wasn't kidding, Mark knows everything.
Yeah. I make a motion, we do 14G. Second.
On a motion by member Donnie and a second by member Lamb to approve 14G. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. 14H.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
No, just.
On a motion by member Downey and a second by I think member Lamb to approve 14H. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. Moving on to short-term classified employees board resolution.
So the board is being asked to approve a short-term classified leader position with the continued installation of the new classroom furniture. We've learned lessons from our past experience last summer that we do need an added person to just coordinate the clearing of the classroom, oversee the coordination and work with me here to do the install and then get things reset. So we would be adding this custodial leader position to from this point through the summer. And CSDA is in support of this, knowing that the current custodial leader that we have would focus on those efforts, and then we would backfill that position, but giving somebody in the unit an opportunity to step into that custodial leader position for the next 4 months, 5 months, whatever it is.
So this is somebody that we already have in our employee that would just come.
It's our current custodial.
Summer.
Yeah,
like
it's
summer school.
It's our current custodial leader salary.
Okay.
Yeah, we just saw it.
Okay. Any questions?
Different Sal, I know that. I know that's what you're talking about.
I make a motion to approve 14I.
Second.
On a motion by member Ciociola and a second by member Damian, this one is a roll call vote. You have a roll call vote, please.
Member Ciociola?
Aye.
Member Dami?
Yes.
Member Carr?
Yes.
Member Lamb?
Yes.
Member Pretty? Yes. Member Coty?
Yes.
President Rosca?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to 14J, our CDP continued funding application for 23-24.
Yes, and our child development programs have multiple funding sources. Applications are written each year. This particular one is for the Department of Social Services, along with the California Migrant Child Care Funding. This also provides multiple people on staff to be able to sign for payment of things. So both our director and our superintendent are included on there as board approved signers.
Any questions or a motion?
For our migrant program, does it still encompass employees going to the home? Remember like way back in the day when I was
Yes. So, but that's what you're speaking of is a little bit different than this migrant program, but we do have support services through our cohort through Butte County that offers migrant services. And so we will have some of their staff working on our sites, helping as tutors and outreach to students that qualify for migrant services.
Okay. I make a motion to approve 14J.
Thanks. I'll second.
A motion by member Ciociola and a second by member Quilty to approve 15J. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. Moving forward to meteor furniture pilot updates for campaign.
This is part of our 1st through 8th grade, all of those last year that participated in our pilot program and have furniture in their classrooms. Once the pilot is done, there is a district standard that is set and established. So now those that participated in the pilot will have all the missing pieces for that district standard is now being provided, and all of those classrooms are being updated with that expectation. They had a variety of different things because they were trying a number of different things. So this goes back and provides them the standard set of materials that they agreed upon at the end of the pilot.
So what happens with the surplus materials?
Those we keep. We can do with, they can be used in any way that we decide.
But if there's a standard classroom, you have round tables or horseshoe tables or I don't know, weird funky tables.
There's not that necessarily odd shaped tables, but anything that we have for the pilot, we do keep. The materials that if some of the teachers want to keep because they did participate in the pilot, they can keep those. But this gives them the opportunity to have all of the standard materials.
I'm not sure I quite understand.
Ask me another question so I can help.
So my understanding is that this is for all of the first 5 or 6, 8, let's just do the 1st through 5th grade. So there's a handful of teachers who piloted, right? They had different types of classroom setups. Eventually, we were able to identify one type of classroom that had X amount of chairs, X amount of teacher tables, X amount of small group tables or whatever, right?
Right.
Now, when you're multiplying it for everybody else, the classrooms that had furniture that did not fit that model, right? So you're saying, like, where does that go in all of the classrooms first through fifth that are gonna now fit your model, right?
Right. We will keep all of the additional furniture, and we can use that additional extra furniture how we choose to use it. If the teachers want to keep some of those pieces, they're welcome to do so, but they have the opportunity to receive the standard classroom furniture.
So the furniture might be repurposed in other ways in the schools or in classrooms. It's not like it. So there's a standard that everyone gets, but there are some additional pieces that can be used in a learning center or, you know, in the library or in the wellness room. They'll get repurposed of those.
I think I was in Tierra Buena and I walked into one of the classrooms and they had like this towering, like turn theme jigger that you put in the book towers with the magazines, but it's like really, it takes up a lot of space, and they were saying it's really inconvenient. So I imagine that would be one of those accessory pieces.
And that's something that would be great in the office and, you know,
or a library.
Or a library or different places for that, where that's an item of use.
I think a lot of us too end up in a storage bin.
But that was fine.
They'll have that D next to it.
Motion to that for the budget.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry. One more question. Sorry. So this is for implementation first through 8, including special education, every classroom.
This is just for the pilot.
For the pilot, to get them the standard stuff.
Oh. Okay. Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 14K.
Second the motion. A motion by member Core and a second by member Quote to approve 14K. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. Board reports, information, discussion, committee reports. I don't believe there's been any committee meetings, no committee meetings. Written communications from the public, I have none. You have none, correct? Okay. All right, comments from employee representatives. Rob Picker to present teacher next year.
Good evening, board members. Anybody left out there? Anybody left in the audience? I'm still Dana Lukens, but I do appreciate your time this evening as you listened to me earlier. It is my sincere hope that we can make progress in negotiations. It is super important for the future of Yuba City Unified that we all work together. Thank you.
Comments from board members.
I have a comment, and I didn't share this last time, and I really apologize. I kind of have a unique position working with the county and being on a district site, but also the collaboration that happens between the county and the district. When it was the professional development day, I had an opportunity as a county employee to attend a professional development training on fetal alcohol syndrome at Gray Avenue, and how that is a new qualifying area for students with special needs. And I recently found out that the district is the one that hosted that. So I really appreciate, one, getting the opportunity to be able to access that. And two, I just thought that it was phenomenal. The presenter did an amazing job, and I was very, very pleasantly. Yes. That's it.
Anything else? We all received an invitation from Taya Phillips at Linquest Elementary School, inviting us to the premiere of their drama club, April 5th and 6th at 6:30 in the Linquest Elementary School cafeteria. Free admission, donations welcome. It's a performance of The Princess's New Clothes.
I have to say, she used to be my student, and I'm just so proud of her.
Yes. So I'll be there one of those days.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Hope to see you all there. Yeah. We have governance training on April 4th. So that will be our actual next meeting, but then we won't have we won't because the holiday break. So then we won't see each other until April 25th after governance training. And did you have any comments?
Well, I need to confirm, I have 4:30 on my calendar for governance training. And
I believe it's 5 o'clock.
we need to confirm that, because I don't know why it's 4:30 on my calendar.
Sorry, I sent out a.
Oh yeah, and then that's been canceled.
Oh, I thought that was
That was my fault. No, I tried to put it in my phone and then it popped up an email and I was like, okay. And then I was like, whoops.
And then I was in Mexico and her texted me, why did you cancel governance training? And I was
I had to confirm with Laura afterwards.
So I had an opportunity to go to the Chico State Recruitment Fair. I was filling in for Director Dad, who had a family need that she had to tend to, and went with Mike Reed and some other administrators. And it is refreshing. We have quite a few teachers who are alumni of this district. So went to Yuba City High School, went to Bridge Street, went to Gray Avenue, went to River Valley. They are very young, but they are returning to the community to teach where they graduated. So there were quite a few.
Yes.
More, I mean,
I was exhausted. Yes, there were a lot of them.
It was interesting. There were a lot of kids who, you probably know, that. But just were excited to talk about who their teachers were and where they graduated, and proud honker or proud falcon. So it was a fun day, but an exhausting day. But a lot of the teachers out there who are anxious to get a job.
Yeah, we have participated in the Sac County Job Fair. That was a new job fair this year in UC Davis, and then now Chico. So we're bringing folks in for interview, but even at the job fair itself, we made offers of employment to, I think, 10 different folks, actually 4 of which were math teachers. So we're doing the hard work of actually reeling them in and getting them into our YCUSD boat, so to speak. And that's the hard part, but I made contact with all of them today. So we'll keep going.
I know that math, science, always up there on high needs list, but I know for a fact in our district, we have been out our teachers. I know we are losing at least 3 or 4 high school English teachers this year. Resignations, mostly. So are we looking for more than just math teachers? And
of course. So we made offers to 2 English teachers on Saturday, and we've had interviews at the site for English teachers that you mentioned earlier, and we have the posting up, and we're gathering applicants. And then we head to Chico or Sac State in a couple of weeks. So
we're advertising that we're looking for more positions than just math and speech language.
Yeah, back in January we posted openings in every category that we could hire, just to start getting a flow of applicants coming in, and then they're just I call them pools. And so then when we get more refined lists of what we need, like specific sites, then we start honing in our interview process to gather somebody specifically for a position at a site.
You just call out math teachers because they're like unicorns right now.
They are, but they weren't in Chico. The multiple subject was actually the lowest right now.
A lot of single subjects.
Yeah,
which was interesting for us because it's usually the multiple subjects, but a lot of math, science, social studies, the music here. So it was different than in other years.
I would agree.
I actually heard from a couple of attendees that I know that were at that job fair. Excellent things to say about Yuba City. So they were excited.
We had a good crew of administrators with us we were able to do some good dialoguing with them and interviewing, and
Let me ask you a question. Do you ever keep teachers to these job fairs?
We have in the past.
Because that would be.
It is.
Because they would probably be able to give you a.
So they come in, they can't answer any questions, but they're there to help. So we've brought them a couple times. So, and generally they graduated from the Chico State program, so they know some of these teachers. So yeah, it is helpful.
I think we have in our administrative group, we had 2 or 3 Chico grads as well, so.
But we have taken them in the past, and it is helpful.
Yeah.
They always just say, I don't know, talk to them, but they're there to interact.
But they can kind of get a feel for the person.
Yes.
Also.
Absolutely.
For the applicant.
Thank you. That reminds me of something I'll throw out there. I think I've thrown out there before. I know Pam and a lot of folks in YCHS went through the hard work of bringing an induction program into Yuba City, unifying, having the stick by understand why. But I also too would love to see as we continue to work on developing features. I know some districts, I think more now with the shortage, are working to bring an internship program into their ranks, and with that being the new norm, which I think is unfortunate, but it is the norm. I just still think that would be something that.
The 2 internship coordinators came by our table, and one of them actually is also an alumni of Yuba City Unified, and so he is very eager to form a partnership. He's asked us to be on their advisory board, so we will be working with them to the program.
Awesome. I just would love to see that in our house too, to seeing them from our community and making sure they come back and stay in our community. Yeah. All right, any other comments? Sorry.
Well, I'll just speak that you'll be receiving an invitation soon for our first colloquium this spring in May.
Oh, yeah.
It's right around the corner.
Okay,
what is a colloquium? It's the graduation of the
celebration.
Oh, okay, yes. Not a graduation. I was like, colloquialism.
And Pam, have you shared the date for the Yuba College graduation?
May 26th. So those students will come on May 9th to, I have in a Friday letter. But the students will come to personally invite you at our first May board meeting. And I'll also share that we did have part of our GAY program. This will be in your Friday letter as well. We have a Odyssey of the Mind program. It's a creative problem solving competition, and we did have one of our teams that won at the state level and has the opportunity to go to the world finals in Michigan in May. So that group of students will be coming in April to talk to you, and that'll come for your approval then also.
How fun.
Is it possible if, I know we have the governance training, but when we have like the next board meeting dates, when it comes to board priorities, and all that, can I get those dates to one more thing, if that's okay? So I can properly put it on the calendar?
Yes, and I don't know that we scheduled the budget priorities, but we've been trying.
No, the board priorities.
Well, it's the same thing. So that would be, we are trying, your calendars or your dance cards are very full. But well, and we're using the doodle scheduler.
You did that one, no, I did, but I didn't think that it had.
That was governance, it's different.
Yeah. I don't wanna wait until, I don't think we should wait until September.
So we're trying to do one in April.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, thank you. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So
second.
Motion by member Donnie, second by Mr. Viziola. All those in favor? Aye.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self Storage in Plumas Lake. where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.